Dan, please change my name. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we've got a quorum. So can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
All right, welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the February 6th Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency meeting. By my time clock on my computer, it says 7:01. I'd like to start off with having a roll call of members present. I'll begin. Mark Parker, Chairman.
Bill Rowinski, Vice Chairman.
Marla Butts, Secretary.
Stuart Peasley, alternate.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to, the chair officially recognizes that Stuart Peasley is attending tonight, and I would like to appoint him as a voting member for the night as alternate. Okay. So action on minutes of the previous meeting. So any of you have had a chance to look at the minutes of the Monday, January 9th meeting? Any discussion or comments on this?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Marla.
No, you
Okay, sorry.
You go.
Under item 6, Bill, this is Bill Rowinski, new applications. On the second page, motion M. Butts, seconded by S. Peasley to approve. And I'm not sure that that's shouldn't be, probably should be accept rather than approve.
That was my recollection. It should be
Yep.
accept, not approve.
Okay. Yep,
So, yep, receive for consideration. Yep.
that's the only one that I have.
That's the only one I had also.
All right, we'll have that. We'll have the secretary make that change, the recording secretary. For resubmittal to the town website. Okay.
Bill
any-
Rowinski, if there's no other comments, I will make a motion to accept the minutes of the Monday, January 9th, 2023 wetlands meeting with the change discussed, change approved to accept.
I second Stuart Peasley here.
Motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Stuart Peasley to accept the modified corrected minutes of the January 9th Woodstock Inland Wetlands Watercourses minutes of the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Abstain. Opposed, so moved. Okay. All right. Pending applications, application 12-22-01, 171 Green Road, Jarrett Thomas, map 5703, block 10, lot 28A, a driveway wetland crossing for new single-family home, split and new single-family home, SFH. Okay, do we have anyone representing or attending tonight for this one?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Blanchette. I'm here to speak on behalf of the applicant, and I believe Mr. Thomas is here as well.
I am. Hello.
Hello.
All right. Well,
Nice to hear
thank
from you, Jarrett.
Nice to hear from you too, Marla. Wow.
All right. So as I said, my name's Daniel Blanchett. I'm a licensed civil engineer, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Jarrett Thomas, to seek approval for a wetland permit for new residential construction. The site is located at 171 Green Road, and we're proposing to do a free split. It's about 11 acres, and we're proposing to cut off about 3.5 acres so that Mr. Thomas can build his new home. Would it be possible to share my screen? Let me see if I can do that.
Yeah, see if you can do that.
Right. Oop, I think I can do it. All right.
There we go. We see it. Yeah.
Can people? Excellent, excellent. So again, all the construction is going to occur at the south side of the lot. You can see here on the north end is the remaining land. Now there is a catch basin on Green Road that discharges down the middle of the site. Those wetlands were flagged by Margaret Washburn. And so there is a little bit of a wetland crossing and a culvert that we've engineered to cross over this little intermittent water course to get to the house construction at the southern end. There will be a driveway easement here because of how steep the topography is. We can't actually access the site directly from Green Road. So there's going to be an easement to come in from the remaining land, which has a house already on it, and head south, cross the wetlands here, and then come around into a house, septic system, well. Again, here's the driveway. We're proposing a 12-foot wide gravel driveway, max slope 10%. It's cross-pitched to the east side of the site. So most of the water will sheet flow off to the east and into some more wetlands again along the east side of the property. There's a small drainage swale that we have designed that's just uphill of the proposed driveway. And so again, it won't capture a large amount of water, but any water coming off of this part of the hill will get captured by that swale and again, enter the proposed culvert here. Oops. There's an existing 18-inch RCP that's connected to the catch basin. And so we're proposing to match that with another 18-inch RCP. It will be 48 feet long. We have the inverts and outlets. We're proposing 1,180 square feet of wetland disturbance. Again, that's really the smallest amount possible to still make this lot buildable. We evaluated a lot of different alternatives, and this was the solution we came up with that we feel has the smallest impact to the wetlands and water courses. At the meeting last month, I believe there were a couple questions or issues. One question had to do with right here on the north side of the house, there's a steep slope. It's about a 4-to-1 slope. And I showed a proposed staircase that I don't know if Jarrett's going to build it, but just in case he did want to build something like that, we'll get it permitted, because really all the construction is within the upland review area. I'm showing the upland review area here, 100-foot upland review area. And so, at least I'd say 95% of the construction is within that upland review area. One of the other comments was to add a construction sequence for the entire project. I had a sequence for the culvert. And so I've added a construction sequence for the whole project. Again, install erosion controls, clear trees, stumps will be chipped or shredded. They cannot be buried. Stockpile the topsoil, rough cuts and fills across the site, install the driveway culvert, install the driveway, and construct the septic system, because again, we kind of have to work from the back. Once the driveway is in, if the house was built, it wouldn't really be possible to construct the septic system. And so once the driveway's in, then we kind of work our way back out. Septic system, then we'd excavate the foundation, pour the foundation, construct the house and the utilities, loam and seed all disturbed areas, and then at the very end, remove erosion controls once all disturbed areas have been stabilized.
Daniel, is that on sheet 2?
Yes, yep.
Is that on the notes and details sheet? Because we
Yes.
don't see that. We don't have that.
Oh, are you
So
not-
you haven't submitted a hard copy to the wetlands office yet?
I have not. I felt it was a pretty minor change, and so I was going to wait to see if there were any conditions of approval, any final revisions. And then, of course, I will submit some signed prints. Hopefully, once we get your approval this evening.
Could you show me the second sheet, the notes and details sheet, please?
Absolutely.
Where the sequence of construction is located?
Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Not
It's
yet.
You can't see it?
Not yet.
Oh, I'm
No.
sorry. Can you see the site plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, hold on. Let me try again. Thought I was sharing it that whole time. I'm sorry. Site plan details. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Don't make it any smaller. I just wanted to look at the sequence of construction. I'm going to be able to read it. Okay. So just for everyone else's benefit, I took a drive-by yesterday just to get a feel for the land. Daniel, if you go back to the detail sheet, not the detail sheet, the plan sheet, the first sheet you showed us.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I could just switch windows, but maybe I do actually have to.
So when I went down Green Road, I was heading northeast and I turned around and came back and I realized I turned around in somebody's driveway that went up the hill. It's on the west side of Green Road. It's a very tall hill. And so I was trying to figure out, there was no evidence of any flow coming off that hill, but there was a catch basin on the street. And so what I'm thinking may have happened is that in the past, there has been water flow that comes off that hill, runs down the road because the road's curved. And probably they put the catch basin in to catch that water so it didn't continue down the road. So there may be times when water flows through here, but apparently it doesn't, it had no appearance of having any concentrated flow going into it. And we kind of see a similar situation on Senexic Road right now near the intersection with Route 171, where a couple of houses were built, and it looks like they didn't take into account the drainage that was coming from behind that hill. So this plan should work, I think, for what is needed. I don't have any problems with it. Where the house is going to be located is probably, one of the flatter portions on the site. And it looked like it'll be fairly distant from the road. I'm not concerned about runoff coming off the road. There's guardrail there, so I don't think it's going to be a safety hazard. There's already a road cut in almost to where the property boundary line is going to be. So some of that work has already been somewhat established as you're coming in from lot 28. There is an access way that already comes in before you get to the house lot, before you get to where the cross culvert's going to be.
Yeah, there's
I
an
don't know if
existing
anybody else
gravel
looked at it.
driveway.
Yeah, it's kind of like overgrown a little bit. I had a lot of leaves on it and stuff. I don't know how frequently it's used, but it clearly was there. I didn't walk on the property, I just looked at it from the guardrail.
Yeah, Marla, this is Jared Thomas. So
I don't
that,
have any other questions.
that
Huh?
road's existed for a long time, and it basically just goes down the property, and there's a small fire pit that's been down there, down by Muddy Brook. And basically a UTV from the Rebello family will go down there periodically, but that's the only traffic that really frequents that at this
Yep.
time.
Got it.
Stuart Paisley here. I'm looking at the Google Earth map on another computer, but where is Muddy Brook, excuse me, where is Muddy Brook in relation to this site?
So this site, 171 Green Road, it's actually a very long, skinny property, and Muddy Brook crosses, I think it's just off the page.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not visible. It's very far from any proposed construction.
Just trying to get the relationships. Thanks.
Yeah, Stuart, one of the things that might be helpful is to go to Town of Woodstock's new GIS map.
Oh, right, right.
You can use that. That'll actually show you. You can actually zoom into that property and you can see. Unfortunately, they have 5-foot contour lines rather
Oh,
than the 2-foot
Huh.
that I'm used to seeing. So it's not as easy to read as, I don't know why they use the 5-foot. I think I've asked Dan to ask the assessor to find out why they didn't use the 2-foot LiDAR, the 2016 2-foot LiDAR, and why are they using 5-foot
they didn't
LiDAR?
do
It
that,
doesn't,
yeah.
it doesn't show it enough.
Perhaps they could modify it.
That's a layer. It's a
Yeah.
layer that's available statewide, so they should be able to put that layer in without a lot of problem.
Yeah,
It's on environmental conditions online.
okay.
So there you can see the property, that the total of 28, and you can see the brook going
Okay.
through lot 28 through lot 27
Oh, this is
and into
much
a
And
large
all the
wetland.
construction is really here.
Well, it's really important to be able to see those relationships and get the context.
Bill Rowinski, I have a question. Do you have septic approval?
I'm actually not sure. I don't have that paperwork in front of me. I think we do, but I can't give you a definitive yes or a specific date of approval, unfortunately.
Okay, then the second question that we should have discussed during the approving the minutes. You're listed in the minutes as a professional engineer. Do you meet that specification also?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. I'm thinking that's a different spec from the licensed civil engineer. Professional engineering is typically another level of certification.
Okay, I'm sorry if I misspoke. I have a professional engineer, a PE license in the field of civil engineering.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear. I don't have any other questions.
So the fact that we don't have the NDDH and we don't have the actual signed and sealed plans, I would think that it's appropriate that we approve this application on the condition that no construction work be initiated until one, the Wetlands Office receives a copy of the NDDH approval of the design, as well as signed and sealed plans of the site plan and the revised details plan. If nobody has an objection, then I will move that.
Fine with me, Bill.
No objections?
Nope.
Okay, then I move that application 12-22-01, 171 Green Road, Jarrett Thomas, map 5703, block 10, lot 28A, for a driveway wetland crossing for a new single-family home with other work associated with the house and the septic system and driveway in the upland review area, be approved on the conditions that one, prior to the initiation of any construction, the Wetlands Office must receive a copy of the Northeast District Department of Health's approval of the design as shown on plans, which also must be submitted, revised plans that must be submitted, signed and sealed prior to the initiation of construction.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
That would be submitted to the Wetlands Office.
Yeah, second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve application 12-22-01 on conditional conditions that that initiation of activities do not commence until the Woodstock Wetlands Office has received the NDDH approval. And what was the other part of that, Marla?
Signed and sealed revised site plans and detail sheet.
Signed and sealed, correct, yeah. Details, okay. Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Abstained or approved or opposed? Stuart?
I said aye.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. I didn't hear it. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, a unanimous vote. Okay, very good. So moved.
So Jared, once you get your house built, why don't you consider joining onto the wetlands in the Wetlands and Watercourses Agency? We'd love to have a new member.
Yes, we need somebody.
That sounds good to
We
me.
had to amend our ordinance to reduce the number.
Give our selectmen a call and let them know that you're a candidate available.
Sounds good. Yeah,
All right.
only not too many months out now, so we're getting there.
Very good.
Appreciate everybody's
Good
time.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you,
Cheers,
Dan.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, let's see. Okay, Roman numeral 6, new applications, none. Okay, no late submittals, Dan?
I have Linda on the line, and I don't remember the substance of her question, but it could involve a potential application. I don't know if you'd like her to speak at this point or later in the meeting.
If the rest of the members don't object, why don't we take care of Linda now?
I
I
no
move
problem.
that we move citizens' comments then from item 8 to item 7 and move 7 down.
Correct.
All right, good evening, everyone. We purchased a lot.
Oh, hold on, Linda. Are
Okay,
you,
hold on,
are you
Linda.
gonna, do you have a second on that motion? Because we're changing the agenda order.
Sure.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butt, seconded by Bill Rowinski to move citizens' comments up onto the Roman numeral 7 position. And we will take care of administrative business later at is the new Roman numeral 8.
Was that, sorry, is that a permanent move?
No, that's just for
No,
tonight's meeting.
just,
Oh, okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved. Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We, my partner and I purchased property on Bighorn Lane back in 2014. And at that point, we had a wetlands permit and NDDH did a preliminary review for a single family home. And we're at the point now, finally, where we'd like to clear the lot and begin the process of removing the trees and then doing the foundation and the septic. We do have plans. We stopped in and saw Dan Malo probably about 2 weeks ago. We just don't know this is all new to us, and we don't know if we need to reapply for a new wetlands permit at this point, since it has been since 2014. The plans are exactly the same as those that we presented back then.
So
Yeah, Marla, you
if it
can,
was issued in, if it was issued in 2019, 2014, it would have expired in 2019, the
right,
5-year limit.
Okay.
Now, there was some statute changes that occurred subsequent to that, which extended time periods. So it's not clear, not sure which public act, because first they said they gave them 6 years. And I can't remember which year the legislature did that. That's because there was a downturn in the economy. And then they made other changes because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So now the length of the expiration date is now 14 years instead of 5. So it's not clear to me. You'd have to research. Now, it was the permit in your name?
Yes, it was. Mhm.
Okay. And you said you had preliminary review, but did you have design approval from NDDH?
Yes.
Okay, so you have design. How old is the design approval?
Also, I believe 2014.
Okay. You would just need to check with NDDH to find out if they still find that acceptable. Whether they would honor it or whether
Okay,
they'd ask you to resubmit. I think it needs a little research because you may or may not have an extension of time. However, if it's expired, then you'd have to reapply.
okay. I did contact NDDH both by email and left 2 voice messages. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I guess upon hearing from them, I can move forward through them first, correct?
Well, you could potentially do both, but I would suggest that you, Dan, were you able to find the approval?
Linda, you brought it in, I believe. Was there a variance with that, or it was just the wetlands approval?
Variance as far as variance on the building of the house and the boundaries?
Yeah, yours is similar to another project. I might be mixing the two up.
Yes, there were variances as well. Would it be helpful to send everything I have to the Wetlands Committee or NDDH?
I can receive that, and I'll be able to investigate if the permit length has been extended based on the date of the issuance, and see where to go from there. I would check in with NDDH first, well, as Marla said, to see if they still honor their prior approval. The
Okay.
variance will run with the land, so you have your approval with those setbacks, but we'll have to investigate the matter of the wetlands permit.
Okay, and do we need to wait for all this to happen before we even begin to take trees down?
I'm gonna defer to the commission on that.
I have a question.
Yes,
Where are you taking the trees down? Is that in the wetlands or in the upland review area?
is it in the wetland?
No,
No,
there is no wetland.
yeah, there are.
Heather, can I
Oh, there's-
step in for a minute?
Sure.
This is a lake issue, so it's actually waterfront on Bungie, and Dan has all of this information sent to him from Lake Building and Zoning.
Mhm.
It's a waterfront lot on Lake Bungie.
Okay. So one of the concerns would be, cutting of trees in and of itself, typically, as long as it's not a clear cut, isn't necessarily subject to regulation if it's only in the upland review area. But the grubbing activity could be, because that would be earth moving.
Yes,
So while the trees might be able to be cut if you left a couple standing that are there so that it wasn't a clear cut, meaning clear cut is the removal of all trees to a diameter, I believe we use 4 inches diameter at breast height, I think
Yeah.
is what it is. So as long as you left 1 or 2 trees that were not, but you couldn't grub it until we get it cleared up. Meaning
Okay.
taking the roots out.
Okay,
okay,
so leave at least 2 trees.
and do no grubbing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a perfect time of the year to cut the trees when the ground is solid, you can
Yeah.
move your
that's
equipment
why we're
around.
trying to
So
move forward with that.
Good, okay,
just don't disturb the ground until we
Okay.
get the answers. Okay.
sounds good. Okay, Amy, so you did forward everything to Dan's office?
Yes, he should have gotten everything in an email from me. I can do it again. I'll resend the email, but he has everything that I have.
Okay. And if there's anything missing that I have, I can certainly provide that. So I guess I'll speak with Dan at some point in the next week or so.
When I'm in the office tomorrow, I'll check and see where it's at, my email, and I'll follow up with Amy if I didn't get it.
Okay, sounds great. I appreciate you taking my questions this evening, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward. We look forward to getting out of Fairfield County and coming up to where life is much
Easier.
calmer and easier. So we do appreciate it. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
So Dan, depending on what you find out about the extension dates, et cetera, if it looks like they are going to have to resubmit, then, you know, get that on the agenda for next month.
Okay,
And Dan, I remember putting together some research on the amendments, the statutory amendments for the length of time. I think you were still working in Windsor Locks at the time.
Yep.
I could forward that to you. I'll be in the office tomorrow and I could, if you don't have that handy.
okay,
that little- I'll do that. I'll try to remember to do that. Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any other citizens present, so I will say let's move on to administrative business. Roman numeral number 8 now. A, election of officers. Okay. So does someone want to present a slate of officers?
So I don't have any problem serving as secretary again. And
Mo-
I would not have a problem moving to extend the current slate of officers for another year. You
Yep,
don't
I
have
don't
many
mind,
options.
I don't mind serving again another year. Unless, Bill, if you want to switch on and off with me for a year.
Not this year.
Not this year, okay, all right.
I'm okay with staying where I am.
Okay, thank you.
Then I move that we accept the current slate of officers for another year.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to extend the current slate of officers for next year. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Stuart. Oh, so moved. Thank you. Okay.
see, there is a benefit of being an alternate.
Yeah, right. That's right. All right, review of bylaws. Okay. So, have you got that up on the website for us, Dan?
I'm gonna start with number 4. Membership needs to be amended. 4A.
Mhm.
It is on the OneDrive.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just going by what I have pulled down.
So I went online to see if the ordinance has been posted since it was adopted. And it has not yet. The one that went through the town meeting that reduced the membership. But the language is there in the notice of the town meeting. But the only thing I don't have is when it was formally effective. So I don't see any problem with changing our bylaws because it has been voted upon and approved. So there's only 2 places it changes, and that's the changing of 7 members to 5 and 3 alternates to 2.
That should be also, well, in number 4 there, that's all, but there is at least one other place.
Where's that?
Meetings, that would be 8A, 8B rather.
Yep,
Number of votes necessary.
3. That's at the bottom of the page,
Yes,
second line from the bottom.
from 4 to 3.
I don't think there's any other place where they reference the numbers.
I didn't come across any, but that doesn't mean there isn't, so.
No, I don't think there is.
Under number 8, also, under letter G, canceling the meeting, written request of 3 or more members. Is that still something you want to keep?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would think so.
Yeah, let's keep it.
Okay,
So up in D, where it says all agency meetings shall be open to the public unless closed by a 2/3 vote of an agency quorum present, which means if 2 people, if a quorum is 3, does that mean only 2 have to vote to say they want it closed? I think that's what that means, to go into executive session.
Yep.
That's my
So
interpretation.
even if there, yeah, if there were 5 people there, if we had 5 members, if we had 5, then how many would we need to go into executive session? 3?
3.
3. We need
Yep.
3. All right. Okay.
there's several places that mention the IWWA clerk. Do we have a clerk working with us? Dan, do you have a clerk? You're muted.
I have a clerk, but I don't believe she performs these duties. What's the context
keep-
of the clerk in this particular?
Does she keep the files? Does she keep the files? Does she puts her hands on the files and files them away?
Yeah.
Yeah, if
And
we were,
she's-
yeah, Dan, it's under the public hearings. If we were to hold a public hearing, then we would normally ask the clerk to read the legal advertisement and note the dates and newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe we could just, I don't know, make it the IWA agent. If, if we hold public.
Yeah, you might want to. Yeah, you're going to change that. That's on page 5, letter
Correct.
D.
That's throughout.
IWWA. It should be wetlands agent. Or duly authorized wetlands agent.
You say page 5?
Page 5,
Page 5,
item 10, public
hearings.
hearings, letter D.
Okay, that's only one of the places.
That's only one of the places. There's another
Yeah.
place. Okay.
Page
8C.
4.
Yeah,
In
8C.
C.
Yep.
That'll have to say agent,
Okay, agent.
wetlands agent. Yeah. Where did we first talk about an agent? Staff. So under page 2, item 6, staff and their duties. I would put on the second line when it says a duly authorized wetlands agent. And it should probably say hereafter referred to as wetlands agent. Or in parentheses, wetland with capitals, wetlands agent, so we don't have to keep saying duly authorized.
Yep,
Now, I don't know if our regulations refer to how an agent is established. I don't have the regulations in front of me. Hold on a second. Because what constitutes a duly authorized agent? Normally, I would think it would be by a vote of the commission, meaning can the Board of Selectmen say, this is your duly authorized agent, or should it be in our regulations?
I've
So,
seen it typically as an appointment, and it, both in one circumstance by the select board, and then in another circumstance by the agency or commission that I was on.
yeah, and the thing is I've got an issue with what's duly authorized, because it's the commission that is the one that actually has to feel comfortable with its agent. Just because the selectman hires somebody to say, this is going to be your agent, you know, the commission loses its authority to be able to say, no, this is not an acceptable person. So page 25 is where it talks action by duly authorized agent. So let's see, of the regulations. So I'm going to page 25 to see if there's anything in there. And there's nothing. It just says the agency may delegate to its duly authorized agent the authority to approve or extend a license. So unless it's in the definitions of what duly authorized agent is, we don't know really what that means. And it is not. There's no definition for duly authorized agent. So that may be something we might want to include in the regulations down the road if we ever want to make modifications to the regulations, since they weren't done since 2009.
So
Unless you want to,
Marla,
unless you want to
on,
put it in the bylaws.
on page 2, item 6, I think answers the question of who appoints, and it's the agency in this particular bylaw. By a majority vote of the members present, a duly authorized wetlands agent to carry out specific functions and duties prescribed by the agency.
Where are you? Are you in the bylaws?
In the
Yes.
bylaws.
Bylaws, page 2, number 6, A.
Okay. Okay,
So, you
That's
know,
enough.
if the selectman interviews a person, and then they have to present that to the agency, and we vote and approve.
okay. So in the absence of staff, if something ever happened,
Right,
one of the members of the commission could be appointed as the agent, as long as the rest of the commission agreed.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then we're all set. So I would just suggest adding, after the words authorized wetlands agent, put in parentheses wetlands agent, so that we can use wetlands agent throughout whenever we need to, and it's used elsewhere. Like on page 3, at the top of the page, authorizing the wetlands agent authority. So I think we should add that language in. Is there any other place, Bill, that you found a clerk reference?
Not that I found it, but that, like I said, I'd have to do a search and
Page 3, D. This kind of, it's in with the wetlands agent blurb, but then it also says, as the last section of that D, the agency shall have a clerk who shall keep the records of the agency. So I
Right,
don't know if that's redundant or,
Well, that's item 6 on, which begins on page 2, is the staff and their duties. And then it spills over onto page 3. You know, that a clerk is one of the staff and their duties.
So we could, because my concern is that town hall keeps reducing the amount of resources we have available. And there used to be an agent and a clerk. It was the building inspector and the building inspector's clerk. And now we have an agent who's shared with other duties, and that's not the building inspector, and there is a staff person there who helps to support. So I think maybe we need to rather than, because she really does do some of the maintaining of the records, but it's actually you, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah.
That makes sure that gets done as the
Yeah.
custodian.
Yeah, and I
So-
delegate that.
Yeah. So why don't we modify that to say the agency shall have a clerk and or wetlands agent who shall keep, so you could have both. What do you think about that?
I'm looking at it, that there's the last part of that that says as required by law. Is that specific enough to meet that statement? Saying,
Well, somebody
or-
has to be the custodian of the records.
yeah,
Does someone necessarily have to
So-
be designated, or can it read the agency shall keep their records as required by law?
No, because we as individual commissioners aren't doing that.
Sure.
We're the commission. We're not doing it. It has to be a staff person that does it.
Can we say the
I
agency?
remember when
shall-
I,
Can we say the agency, if the agency is referring to us commission members, then, you know, we just need to say that we will have an office or, you know, or a staff of some, what's required by the law is that we have an office that will keep those records for us. So maybe we should just say shall have an office, or I don't know, I'm just,
the problem with just an office is not a person, it's a place. So we really need to have a body. So that's why I suggested shall have a clerk and or wetlands agent, because that way you have to have one or the other or both.
but if you put wetlands agent first, then that kind of signifies that that's the responsibility. If he chooses to delegate that, and the or
Right.
clerk is acceptable.
yeah, I like that, Bill.
Yeah.
It's the agency shall have an agent and or clerk who shall keep the records.
And that's not stated as of now.
Right now, it just says shall
No.
have a clerk.
It says what, what's, what, I'm sorry.
Right now, it says the agency shall have a clerk who shall keep the records, blah, blah, blah. So we're proposing to, it'll now say the agency shall have an agent and or clerk who shall keep the records of the agency as required by law.
I would suggest that the agency shall consist of a clerk and an agent, or agent and a clerk. Consist of instead
We
of
are the
have.
agency.
So we're the
Stuart,
agency.
We're the
Stuart.
agency.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the word consist of instead of having.
Well, I would say, remember, this is under item number 6, which is staff and their duties.
Yeah,
So in all of 6A through D is listing the staff and their duties. So I don't think we need to say shall consist of in item D. You know, we're saying it by virtue of it, embedding it within item number 6, staff and their duties.
my question is just observing and listening is that there's a question as to what's this agency made of? And so
That's in the ordinance, Stuart. Stuart, the ordinance establishes the Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency.
does the ordinance talk about the clerk?
No,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
but because the clerk is not
It's
the
not
agency.
in the ordinance. If it's not, if it's not clear, it should be made clear somewhere.
The agency or
I think it's pretty-
Anyway, that's I'm just giving my,
Yeah. Right,
I'm
yeah,
just
okay,
saying.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
if
think
it's
it's
not
clear
clear to
that
me, it's
that the
probably not clear to
commission,
somebody else.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I would suggest though, Mark, that you put in wetlands agent, not just agent.
okay,
I would use wetlands agent.
Yeah. the agency, which is us, the commission members, Stuart. Both the alternates, both the full members and the alternates. The agent and the clerk, if we did have one, would be considered the town staff or that support the agency.
So isn't that in the definitions?
Yeah, I think I think somewhere around the agent, the Woodstock Inland Wetlands Agency are the appointed members
Yeah.
by the selectmen.
So I'm looking at the regulations.
Yep.
And I'm going to section 1 of the regulations. And it says under item 1.3, the Woodstock Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency of the Town of Woodstock was established in accordance with an ordinance adopted in 1971 and shall implement the purposes and provisions of these regulations and the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Act in the Town of Woodstock. And then it's the ordinance that defines exactly what the membership is and how they are established. The ordinance does not speak to staff. I don't think the town fathers would want it to speak to staff because then they'd be forced to have staff, which they like to play around with it sometimes. So, I don't know. So, question, we cannot approve these changes according to the bylaws this month. We can only talk about them, and then a new version is generated, and we look at the new version at the next meeting and we render a decision on the new version.
Correct.
What we can do is we could take do you have the Word copy, Dan, of this? Were you able to find it?
I don't know. I probably
All right.
do. I know Ashley was really good with the digital documentation, so I can scan the shared folder. I've managed to find this, and maybe I just shared this out of ease that it was a PDF.
Actually, I probably have the original because way back when Tina left, we made a modification of the order of business. And that got confused because when Tina came back, she didn't know we changed it. And so I probably have an electronic version in Word, which I could go look up and then take and modify it, do a red line with a strikeout and red line, and then with track changes, and then have a clean copy, what it would look like in its final form. So you could post both of those, one
Okay.
with a red line with strikeout, and the other with a clean copy of what it would look like, if that would help.
Yeah, I'll check to see what I have on my computer in the office, and if I don't have that, I'll get in contact with you.
Just tell me. Yeah, I'll check it out. All right.
Okay, the copy that I'm looking at, I think I just downloaded that or printed it off the website. The order of business is not correct on there, so that might need to be updated.
You're right, it isn't the one. So I will go look to find out the one that we originally approved that should have been edited. Ashley was supposed to change it because we went through this while she was here, that the order didn't get changed. So I'll go back through my records and find it. I'll find the electronic copy I have, because I'm sure I have it somewhere, because we didn't have, I was acting as the clerk, and not as the agent, but as the clerk at that time. So I'll go find it and I'll get it to you in the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, so we got that, and then anywhere that it says clerk, well, on that particular one, we want to have it changed to wetlands agent and or clerk. But 8C, 8C, do we want to have that one changed to just agent or wetland agent?
Where are you? What page?
Wherever letter, I mean, number 8C, let's see, what page was that? That would
Let's
have
see,
been
that would be 4.
page
That would be
4.
4. Yeah. Change clerk to wetlands agent. And, yep, that's it.
Oh, wait a minute. C currently says the IWWA clerk in consultation with, so we'll just change that to IWWA agent. Okay. Yep.
Wetlands agent.
What? Oh, okay. Okay, wetlands agent there, okay. But isn't that what IWWA stands for?
No,
No? Oh, okay,
that stands for Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency.
right.
So Inland Wetlands and
So-
Watercourses
so the-
Agency, wetlands agent.
Oh, okay. All right, wetlands agent there. Okay, good. All right. And then on page 5 and D should say the IWWA wetlands agent shall read the legal advertisement. Okay, good. So we'll get that change made and then we'll present it at the next month's meeting. Okay. All right, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to bring out the gasoline and say, talk about number 13,
13.
since we reduced our membership. And what if somebody recuses themselves, what still constitutes a majority? And what constitutes a remaining quorum? Because we did come across that last year, the year before, as an issue of whether we had quorum to actually continue business.
Recusing, so say
Oh,
we
hang on.
have
Yeah,
three-
Go ahead.
3 regular members and,
Yep.
and 1 alternate. The alternate sits in and one of us recuses ourselves. As long as the alternate is seated, you still have a quorum of 3. But if Stuart's not around and one of us has to recuse ourselves, we can't have a meeting because we don't have a quorum. So if
Okay.
you had to come and recuse yourself, we couldn't render a decision. It would have to, and if no decision was rendered, the applicant could turn to DEP and ask DEP to process the application for us until such time. And that's what happened in Bridgewater many, many years ago. They got sued for violation of civil rights by a developer. And so when the application came in to to go back and apply, the guy reapplied again after the Supreme Court said they had a conflict or there was a violation of civil rights, excuse me. So the members all recused themselves and said they couldn't process the application because of a conflict. And so that application got submitted to DEP. DEP processed the application for the town and back charged the town the cost of processing that application, which was, I think, around $3,000 to $7,000. By the time they added up all the staff fees, all the time that the staff spent on processing that application. So that's the upshot. If we can't have a quorum because somebody's recused themselves, all the more reason why the town should get this commission fully staffed.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clarified. Because like I say, there was an issue before. The only other, there was something else I wanted to say about that, but
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a parliamentarian at our church in different years, and I've studied Robert's rules quite extensively. And it's kind of a fine line because, this item 13 speaks to, and it does say in any particular matter. So, maybe we could talk to a lawyer about this. Because, it would just mean that we might not have a quorum per se for that particular minutes of the meeting in which we're dealing with that matter. The person is only recusing themselves from the discussion or voting on any particular matter. And I'm just thinking that maybe if the selectmen were there, we could at least, if we were worried about a quorum, we could just have the selectmen, run the meeting, and then, we'd still have enough members to vote, or you could vote on the item. And if everyone voted in the affirmative or negative on any particular item, it wouldn't be a big issue just because you didn't have a quorum. You see what I'm saying? I'm just, we wouldn't have to shut down the entire meeting because only one part of that discussion, so someone had to recuse themselves from participating in that particular item.
Yeah, so just because the first selectman may be an ex officio member, that is by virtue of his office, that doesn't make him a voting member. And in the past, when Swan has attended our meetings, he's been smart enough to abstain, saying, I don't know enough about it. I can't vote on it. But
Right.
there was an attorney general's opinion a long time ago that ex officio just means by virtue of your office, it doesn't grant you voting rights. So if we do go to the town attorney regarding how that works, then that's a second question you want to ask. Can the first selectman as an ex officio member vote?
Well,
Because I suspect
there's a place in Robert's rules, I believe, that says, or an interpretation of Robert's rules that says an ex officio member is a member and has the right to vote. That's an opinion of what Robert's rule says. I'm not sure that Robert's rules specifically addresses that.
and Robert's rules may not trump if there's something in case law.
That's right. But the thing I'm also getting at this that I just remembered is, what if you're on fifth day, say day 59 of 60, and you've got to render a decision, or they get automatic approval?
Well, there's none for us. That's subdivision. That's not for wetlands.
But we have a statute that we have to, once we accept it, that we have to render decision by, correct?
Yes, but the courts have said because there's no penalty for not making a decision, that's a directory instruction, as
Okay.
opposed to in subdivisions, it says if you don't render a decision in the timeline that you have, it's an automatic approval. There is no such language in the Inland Wetlands Act, so there's
Okay.
no automatic approval.
Okay,
Okay, okay, so we want to open up a meeting, and according to item number 8, this would be on page 3. A simple majority of the full voting membership of the agency shall constitute a quorum. And the number of votes necessary to transact business shall be 4 seated members. Which
3.
constitutes
It's now 3.
now 3, okay.
Yeah.
Which constitutes a majority of member of the agency. Okay, so that we need that to at least start business and open the meeting. But so let's say 3/4 of the way through the meeting, a member gets sick and they have to leave, or someone has to recuse themselves from a particular item. Does that mean we have to shut the meeting down? And what I'm saying is, no, we don't have to shut the meeting down because we had enough to open the meeting, and so, if there's an item that needs to then be voted on, we just vote on with the members that we have that are still there to vote it. I don't know.
I think asking legal counsel that question is appropriate,
Yeah,
because I don't think you can vote on it if you don't have a quorum of members.
okay, all right, okay.
And
that's-
so that, it doesn't mean the meeting's closed down. It just means you can't vote on that particular item.
You
And then
can
you
still
move
go on-
on. Because
You can still go on
can't-
to receive
Yeah.
reports and have, yeah, right.
Yep.
Right. Okay,
so I brought
You still
brought
want
that,
attorney,
yeah, I brought that up because I chaired, that was one of the meetings I chaired where
Right.
we had an issue that I was pretty much uncertain that we could act on it because we didn't have a quorum at that point.
Well, the people from FOIA, Hennigan has suggested if you don't have a quorum, you shouldn't be holding a meeting. But yet there have been meetings that have been held that don't have a quorum, but you can't conduct any business. And we have done that before when we answered people's questions, citizens' questions, but we didn't render any decisions. We didn't take any applications. That happened a number of years ago. I remember that we were in the room downstairs in this town hall. And there was a bunch of people that were there to ask some questions about, I can't remember what it was. And we gave them our advice, but we didn't do any business. We didn't do any votes, so to speak. And so there were notes that were posted, I think, from that meeting.
So
I
if we
don't know,
were
it's
to
a
ask,
gray area.
ask the attorney and he were to say, yeah, no, you wouldn't be able to vote on that item because you wouldn't have had enough members, then maybe we should consider adding a language that says, in the event that you no longer have a quorum, when someone recuses themselves, the matter may need to be taken up at the next business meeting or something like that. I don't know.
I see your point, but maybe we should get legal counsel interpretation first. And
Correct.
maybe do that next year, depending on
Yeah.
what we get back in, or we can always change the bylaws later
Yeah.
again. I mean, it doesn't go through a hearing process or anything.
Dan, could you do that for us? Could you talk with our town attorney on that?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on the bylaws?
No, I've made enough trouble.
Okay. Discussion, letter C, discussion of application permit fees. Okay. What do we got on those?
We don't have anything on the permit fees. We didn't get anything on that.
Application for
Are we
permit?
just going to discuss it as to what should be included?
Yeah,
I'm working on a new fee schedule for the Thompson Wetlands Commission, Inland Wetlands Commission, and I could share with you what I've identified as what the costs of processing an application are, because really the fee should cover the cost of processing an application, and $95 is not enough. $110 is not enough, but it depends on what your requirements are for publishing the legal notice. So in Thompson, all the legal notices are published by the Wetlands Office, whether it's a wetlands agent approval or an individual permit. But in Woodstock, I think the setup it has been that for wetlands agent approvals, the legal notice gets published by the applicant. I'm not sure of that. I think that's the way it used to work in the old days. That's the way I think Tina LaJoy did it.
yeah.
Dan, you might be, if you see Tina LaJoy, you might ask her about that, because that takes off about $44 off the cost, because that's what the cost of the legal notice is coming to now. It's at least mine are costing $44.10. It seems to be pretty standardized, and that's trimmed down to as tight as you can get it.
With the villager?
No, yes. Yep, that's the villager. Stonebridge Press. So then you have the cost of logging the application in, reviewing the details, making sure it's complete, done by the staff. Those are costs that are included. Then there's the $60 that goes to the state. So already, if you've got $60 to the state and $44 for a legal notice, you've already passed $110. You're up to 114, and that's not counting staff time to review it and process it. So the cost of applications are much more significant. Now, for uses permitted as of right, there's no requirement for legal notice, because you're saying it's a use permitted as a right or a non-regulated use. So all you have is the staff review, and there's no, you don't have to charge for that. We don't charge for them in Thompson. But then there's people who might petition petition a regulation change, which has never happened, but technically it can under the statute. What are you going to charge them for that? Because there's 2 legal notices on a public hearing for regulation change, and that's could be quite a bit larger in price. So I think maybe you need more information. I can share that with you guys if you want the Excel spreadsheet that I've got for costs of processing an application the way I see it, based upon the pay that I get. And you can see what the cost might be, what you might want to have as an application fee, given the town is so shy of funds.
It would be
Is
helpful
the
to
town of
hear.
Thompson the same as Woodstock's process? Because basically, I think you
No,
just identify what the process consists of, what the costs are for each
it's not,
step. And then,
it's not exact.
if it's not exactly the same, then we just have to do a different scope of work for that task.
Right. Right.
And then
So
you
you can
can
decide
assign
what
the
tasks
cost.
you want to include.
But right now, it seems like we're just guessing.
That's right. So at least you could get a starting point where you could decide what you wanted to include and not include based upon how business is done in Woodstock.
I
So I
think,
can-
just from a base process of cost estimating, we should identify what those costs are for each
Mhm.
step. And then we could,
Mhm. Mhm.
I would suggest add a percentage for office work beyond that. Because we've got, and that would require how much time to take for office staff to apply to each application. And then we can give a
Mhm.
reasonably, because it seems like right now, we're losing money on every application.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so unless we get that process more defined, that's, so who would define that process here? Would that be that would be Dan, or that would be
Dan.
somebody, that we do as a
No.
group here, or what?
Well, Dan is the one who's doing the brunt of the work, so he'll know how much time he has to spend on each kind of application. He hasn't been there that long though.
Yeah.
And I think once you know what the areas are that you need to look at, then you can guesstimate what the amount of time is that you need. And remember, the pay scales are not the same between Woodstock and Thompson, so you
And
have to look
also
at
the
what the
thing-
current pay scale is in Woodstock.
Well, the other thing that's indeterminate is that one project could be really very fast, and another will be more complex and take more time.
Mhm.
So that's why I
Mhm.
say adding a percentage of the work, say if it's a 10% of the total project, that's what the fee is. But making a hard fee is hard to do because each
So-
case is going to be slightly different, right?
If you get a chance, Stuart, take a look at the town of New Milford's fee schedule for their wetlands office.
Okay,
It's hard to find in their website, but you can be found. And they charge a fee for everything. I've never seen a more detailed fee structure. They charge for inspections, post-permit inspections. How they collect it, I have no idea, but yeah,
That's
so
what
it's
we
in
need.
New Milford
That's
when I was doing
perfect.
my research.
Marla, have you seen anywhere that incorporates a travel mileage?
Mhm. Nope.
Or labor and travel, or I mean, there's a difference between something going on by Roseland Pond versus something going on by Bungie.
Mhm.
To do an inspection in Bungie takes a chunk out of the office time, for sure. So I mean, considering the geographic coverage needed on some, I don't know if that can be incorporated. I just didn't know if you had seen something like that before.
I hadn't, but I had seen costs for inspections, which I have not seen elsewhere. And they even had costs of it for inspections on enforcement actions, which I was surprised at. Because that's something that the town bears usually, not
That would be good to see if New Milford
violator.
had something like that, to use it as a precedent case study.
I would tend to stay away from New Milford's, just do cherry picking of what you like,
Right.
what you feel comfortable with, given the environment of Woodstock. New Milford is kind of like got the New York bent. A lot of people come up from New York, going to Kent and that kind of area. It's a different class of personnel.
Yeah.
And they have a different expectation out of their government than they do here. So I just threw that out as just to give you an idea of what's out there, what kinds of thing you could find. That was the most
Well,
extreme one that I found.
The question is how to get a process where we're not losing money.
That's the nature of government, though, partly. Some of the activities that are done will be a loser, but the processing of an application should not. Anyways, I'll send that over to you, Dan. What I've got so far on a fee schedule for Thompson. It's not finished, but it's just gives some ideas to work with. And that's got to be done by regulation anyway, so that's not going to be something that you can easily change, those fees.
Well, one thought that comes to mind in terms of permit fees is that some of it can be done in terms of cost of the project, if you do a percentage of the cost of the project.
Well, I know that's the way architects work.
Well,
But I don't know that.
It's the industry, and that
Yeah.
it's not, it's just in permitting in any municipalities can be like that. Just a thought.
I've seen that for extensively with building, but I don't know if I've seen it applied to land use permitting.
It's supposed to be tied to the cost of processing the application.
Could we
That's what
talk
it's
with
supposed to be.
some NECOG staff that maybe they could give us some guidance? Just a thought.
Yeah, anything that would be a valid
Maybe
precedent.
Kakiwik. Maybe,
Kakiwik?
maybe ask them, or members of Kakiwik, maybe send them a request to see if they can do some kind of little survey to find out, how different people do it. But that's a long time for them to do anything. And I don't know how much resources they have to do anything.
So on the subject of Kakiwik, Bill had me investigate some things, and our Kakiwik membership has lapsed.
Oh.
It was oops.
Ooh.
So
There you go.
Don't we-
we've got to raise our permit fees.
No, it has Kakiwik's in our budget, so we never got an email from them asking for us to renew.
it went. I don't remember this how Karen, our finance director, had stated what might have occurred, but I believe the membership was going to Tina, and it never went to Ashley.
Okay,
And so it was just the renewal was lost in the email.
okay.
But
All right.
it's one of those things I want to get working on getting sorted out next week. I believe we had a shared membership with the Conservation Commission.
Yes,
So there's money in this fiscal budget before it lapses to
Mhm.
pay for that at least. They do have the form online, Kakiwik does, so you can print it off, fill it out and send it in. Check with conservation to see if they've done theirs, because usually we do those together. in Thompson, they're joint. So they're usually, one form fills out both purchase orders put in for each, from each office to process that one form when it's a joint membership.
So I would suggest discussion of application permit fees. We put that on next month's agenda, and let's do some more legwork and let's try to find out what other towns are doing, and we have some further discussion on this. So in the meantime, I'd like to move forward, letter number D, review of the updated permit application. That is on the OneDrive. And I remember one of the things that we were talking about for that form was the property owner certification. So just want you all to take a look at that and see if that meets what we were talking about.
Can you,
Does-
sorry, refresh me on where the OneDrive, how do I access the OneDrive?
Okay, so do you have the link that Dan embedded in the email
For tonight?
for tonight's meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you click on that, and then you'll see there's a folder for the 7171 Green Road.
Yep.
And then go down the one that says application for permit IWWA.
okay.
That's the
That-
form that we're, yep.
In the agenda or in the, wait a minute. So I'm looking at the agenda or the minutes?
Mm,
Well, if
No,
you,
you're looking at the folder.
if you're looking at the, if you're dropping down, you see after the IWWA agenda, there's one that says application for permit. You see that?
No, it's not showing up on mine.
It's, oh,
That's why I'm not.
oh my goodness.
Me-
Okay.
So-
oh, wait a minute. Good afternoon. Meeting documents are online here. Then click on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So there it is. OneDrive. Click here for documents related to February 6th.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
I got
so
two comments.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
I
I
was just
talk
saying,
enough.
saying that the property owner's certification actually contains two items. And it's, one is the affirmation, the information is accurate, but it also gives the consent for inspection. But I think what we were
One
looking
is the
for,
property owners.
I think we were looking.
There's two
to-
because. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, I think we were
Sorry.
looking to make sure that we had the permission from the property owner in there somewhere, that it kind of got lost or something. And it was combined with the that the information is accurate.
So the line that's the second paragraph under the property owner certification.
Yep.
That should be knocked out. That belongs to the applicant, not to the owner. The owner and the applicant can be the same, but then they'd sign twice. So that undersigned swears that the information supplied in the complete application is accurate to the best of their knowledge and belief. That doesn't need to be there because the only thing we're getting from the owner is the right to enter onto the property. The applicant has to certify that it's complete and accurate to the best of their knowledge. So I would strike the second paragraph in the owner's certification.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
The other thing is under the printed name, it should also in parentheses say and title, see below. Because if it's a corporation or a partnership or an LLC or a trust, I don't know if we have trust in there. I think we're missing trust. Then you should know who the entity, what the title of the entity is. Because it says corporation and the signature required to be by a principal executive officer, at least the level of vice president. So you should know that whoever's printed name is there is what's their title. if it's a corporation. So I would put for both the property owner and the applicant, underneath the printed name or next to the printed name label, in parentheses, and title, see below, comma, see below. Do we have many trustees owning land now in Woodstock? Like family trusts?
Yeah, there's a few of them. I don't know how
So-
many exactly, but yeah.
So maybe we should also have in the listing of all the owners. And it should say if the owner or applicant. If the owner or applicant. Is, and then you have all those other things, and then I would add trustee in that list.
Yep. Now, what page are you on?
Last page, page 4 of the application
Oh, okay,
form,
okay,
application permissions and certifications.
okay.
And it should be an or, not an and. Down in, at before 6. If you add a 7th for trustee, then it would be an or trustee. Signed by an authorized trustee, authorized trustee. There's some language I've seen before. I'll have to give it to you, but. And the other thing that I found is talks about
Marla,
agencies.
before you move on, I want to make sure that I had that a couple spots clear. After 6, comma 7, or a trustee. And then what was the
Yeah.
language following
I'll
that?
have to get that I'll have to get that to you. I'm working with the same language with the Thompson subdivision
Okay.
regulations. So I'll get you that language.
Okay.
Then underneath the part to be filled by the agency, it says agency's response. And there's not enough room there if we approve with conditions to write in the conditions. So unless you have an attachment that attaches the conditions to this, you don't really know what the conditions are. Like tonight, we did an approval with 2 conditions, having the NDD, actually it's technically 1, I guess, because having no construction begin before the wetlands receives the NDDH approval and gets signed and sealed revised plans. How would you put in what the agency's response is? It's not just simply approved, it's approved with conditions. And what you say about those conditions becomes important, because if you have to do an enforcement action later on, you better have those conditions clearly identified.
I can add essentially a checkbox labeled conditions and maybe 2 or 3 additional lines. I think we gained some space somewhere on that page, and I can use that for more detail in that section.
Yeah, I was thinking either that, Dan, or maybe just insert underneath that line, like a parentheses that says attachments as needed or something like that. But yeah, maybe having a box and, having the one liner there, so, if it's, approved with conditions, and then right underneath that, you would have a little checkbox and it said, see attachments or something like that.
Well, then you could put just, and the agency response could be 2 lines instead of 1.
That still wouldn't be enough.
No, but for in the second line, you could say, you could have
The
that
attachment,
wording,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think the application, which says application number, date filed, and fee, that's on the front page. Doesn't need to be repeated on the back. Maybe you might want the application number in case you wanted to just Xerox that one page. You might want to have the application number on the last page, but all the other information is already on the front page. The receipt date and the fee and the date that it was paid. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because how would this second page be used, this last page, excuse me, page 4 be used? It would be used if you had an enforcement action and you were looking at it after the permit was, or the approval was issued, and you wanted to be able to have a very quick way of showing, you know, what was appropriate to it. Now, we don't issue an actual document called wetlands watercourse permit in Woodstock. So the application form should probably have a space for the title of the plan. If there's a site plan that's applied for, you know, like who prepared it, what's the title, what's the date it was prepared, what's the revision date, because you'd be approving that plan. So like tonight, we had Mr. Thomas's application. There's a site plan. We know that what's being approved is a specific revision date. And it has a specific title that someone could go back and look at. So you'd say site plan entitled blah, 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 end of parentheses, prepared by blah, 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 dated blah, 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 revised blah, blah, blah. So you would be able to know exactly what was being approved. You might want that on the last page from the standpoint of being able to look at saying, what did the commission approve? What was
Along
the
that line
plan?
of thought, that something that's missing on that last page is a address field. If this last page bears the importance of the approval with the signature, you need to have the address, the location of the property. Though the application number is pertinent, but date filed and fee, that stuff is on the first page and not necessarily relevant on the last page.
So let me ask you, when you have an application on a vacant lot, does Woodstock identify that property as zero, like Zero Green Road?
Yep.
So when the application comes in, it's Zero Green Road, and they don't assign a street number to it until it gets a building permit, I would assume. Then the assessor would need to assign for emergency services.
Yeah.
So the property location would have to be the map block lot.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have a proper street address until the building permit's filed, and somebody can file an application, get a wetlands permit and not get a building permit for 4 or 5 years. Like this couple, this lady that came in and talked to us last night or tonight.
Yeah, I think address and map block lot.
Property site address block. Why are we asking for the location of utility pole nearest to the property? What are they looking for there? Just a brief description of how close the nearest pole?
Before the days of GIS, that was a one way of finding the property.
It's a
because all the
location.
poles are numbered.
It's a benchmark.
Yeah, but you don't need that anymore. You really don't need that.
All right.
Where's that? What page is that on? Oh,
Okay.
right at the, right on page 2.
Page 2. Yep.
Surveyors
Yeah,
still use
I
it.
get-
If there's gonna be a survey, then it might be applicable.
It's true. Sometimes they're on surveys.
They still are.
It's a helpful reference out in the field if you're
Yeah.
not in front of the computer with the GIS.
So what would normally get written in that, on that very short line? Just the poll number?
There's a designation for it. I can't pull it off the top of my head, but it's very clear in the surveyor's language.
Huh.
If you
So
see
if you
that
look
there,
at
they
any of
would
the
understand.
telephone,
It's either on a telephone or a benchmark location. I would, it doesn't really help us to remove it, does it?
Okay. I just never noticed that before. That's why I was like, if I needed to write, well, about 300, 200 feet down the road or to the
Well,
north,
They
you
only
can't.
last about 10 years if they're on a utility pole, because the utility poles get changed out
Yeah.
and so they're not updated. They're not as reliable as you would like, but
Yeah.
I went looking for one the other day and saw the new pole and I'm like, well, that's done.
Yeah.
they didn't put the numbers back up?
No,
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
it looks to be about a 1-inch long section of that line there. And I'm like, wow, if I had like more than 5 or 6 words, I'm really cramming things in. Okay. I digress.
I mean, it could be, you could just say utility pole adjacent to the property.
Yeah.
You could slim it down if you want.
Yeah.
I just think it's useful.
So now, then right below that is purpose and description of activity for which authorization is requested. Then Marley, you can see there's a couple of asterisks, attach a diagram, attach a copy of this, So wouldn't that meet our needs for wanting to see, the site plan would be an attachment?
Well, a diagram is something that usually a homeowner does. A drawing or a plot plan of sufficient scale. That would be up to the agent to decide what would be acceptable. The way it's written here. And attaching the US Geological Survey map is probably not appropriate. I think if it said attach a printout from the GIS program, with a location, because I don't know anybody who attaches, where do you even get a US Geological Survey map now? You can't find those unless you have a hard copy. They're not easily online. That might need to be changed to, because now we have a GIS program. You might just want a printout at a certain scale from that program.
Yeah.
This would make a huge difference.
And the soils map. The soils map, unless you're using it to figure out what the erosive capability of the land are, it's not going to mean a whole lot to anybody. Soils map doesn't do a whole lot unless you use it to identify the soil types. And those are not specific, those are generic, meaning they're not precise. So almost nobody supplies the soils maps unless it's a subdivision. A lot of times they'll put those in a subdivision, but then you have a detailed soil scientist report telling you what you got, what you don't have. So maybe we need to look at that section. What kinds of maps do we want accompanying the application? Like a locus map. I have found it difficult when I didn't grow up in Woodstock, so I don't know where the roads are. And it's really helpful when there's a locus map of the area that shows some of the streets. And they could get that off of the GIS program that we have now, if you specify a scale.
It's so vital for all of us to be able to understand where like I said, like even tonight, where's Muddy Brook in relationship to the site? You want to be able to locate things so you have a sense of it. But one other question I would raise is, what about FEMA maps? Floodplain.
They're not digitized. There's right now, the only copies that I was able to find in town hall was in the town clerk's office. You can go online and look at the FEMA maps online, but that doesn't really help you. For the applicant, a homeowner wouldn't know how to look for that, but if you have an engineer, they can actually transpose that onto their property, like that guy off of Roseland Park Road.
Yeah,
The engineer could transpose that onto his property.
right.
How they do it, I don't know. But
Because I run into that too as well with insurance companies will stipulate that a certain property that's being considered for sale or something, if it's in a floodplain zone, that changes everything. And so I'm just curious where the insurance companies get these maps, and if it's anyway, you can see where there's a potential confusion.
mhm. Well, FEMA is in the process of redoing a number of the old maps. Woodstock isn't getting theirs yet for a while. Once they get the Shetucket River done, right now they're doing the Quinnebog. And so they're doing Thompson's, and that's all going to be digital, and it can be put on a digital mapping system. But they didn't do Woodstock because half of Woodstock is in the Shetucket watershed. So they said that they would do the Quinnebog portion of Woodstock, which is basically Roseland Lake and Muddy Brook and all that. They will do those, digitize those FEMA maps when they do the other half of town, the last half of town. And that's not going to be for another couple of a year or two out at least.
Mark,
So we won't have digital copies.
Sorry, yeah. Mark, I was working on a property down on the Long Island Sound, and the FEMA maps there are pretty good.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
because FEMA's focused on the coastal areas because of climate change.
Yeah.
And
Sea
they want to
level
make
rise.
sure that,
Yep.
yeah.
So DEP, DEEP.
Deep. The Deep Water Division.
There, okay.
So are we talking about changing those maps that are asked for? Do we
Yeah, I
want to
think-
have a,
Yeah,
do you want to have it as if it's a map done by a land surveyor and engineer? Do you kind of like want to make a checkbox of what kinds of map is being attached? Or do you want it as there should always be a locus map.
Yeah, there should be
There
a
should always be,
range of maps that are included that would start with a locus map. You got to know which way north is, so we can begin there. And then what are the roadways and communities, all that is essential. So just
Stuart, when you get a chance, take a look at that new GIS program. I
Yeah,
think you'll find that really
definitely.
helpful.
yep.
so, yeah, so those asterisked bullets in the middle of the part 2 property site information on page 2, I would like to see the appropriate attachment diagrams and attach a copy of soils map, whatever,
Yeah.
the digit, we need to change that language that's there now. And then once we do that, then there's other forms. And I'm just like, I can't remember what attachment 1 is and what's attachment 2. And, we just need to make sure that we still have those attachments available.
Well, I think this is an opportunity to make this process more consistent with,
Yes,
and that's just an advantage. We're not spinning our wheels.
right.
It's really, it's worth putting the time into this.
Right,
We'll save our time later.
right.
So do we have enough changes to be able to come back and look at this again? Because we're still not there yet.
We're not.
Right. We're not there yet.
It's a trial and error process as far as I can see it. And these sessions that we do and put into it, we should be making notes and come back and look at how it works and expect that it's going to get revised again.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents.
Well, we're getting closer though.
Well, that brings up a good point that should probably put a revision date on this form also.
In the footer.
When it's done.
Well, if we get to a certain point that we make an incremental change, it's probably never going to be done.
Oh, no, but we're at the point now, we're still, we're in a preliminary phase, but we're not ready to accept anything. At least
Yeah.
I think this is just a rough draft.
Absolutely. I will incorporate the comments that we brought up today into a new draft for the commission at the next meeting. And as Bill said, it needs a revision date in the footer or something, just so we know what we're working with.
Yep.
At some point, yeah. You can say draft version this date, but until it's approved, there
Yep.
wouldn't be a revision date. But at this current moment, these are just drafts.
Right. So maybe we should, can you put a watermark on this, Dan?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, put a watermark draft. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
I hear the bunny basket calling me.
Yep.
I think we've done everything we can do.
Yep.
And there's no citizens' comments, we moved, so it looks like we're ready for adjournment.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Oh,
Wait a minute,
that was a tie.
it was a tie, Stuart. What?
What?
So who moved to adjourn first?
I did.
Me or Stuart? Stuart,
Stuart
okay,
started-
Stuart, it's yours.
Yeah, Stuart started talking first, but you said it much more quickly.
I'll withdraw my request to take Stuart. And then Bill seconded.
yeah,
Yeah, and Bill seconded. Yeah, motion's been made by Stuart Peasley, seconded by Bill Rowinski to adjourn. All in favor,
Wow.
signify by
Thank
saying
you, guys.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, abstained, so moved.
Have a good
At
night.
8:49.
Have a good night,
8:49.
everyone.
thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Night.